Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Ondra Nemcik. Ondra is a coach, special one, helps people with social anxiety and other interesting stuff that I think all midlifers should know about. Ondra, welcome to the show. Please tell us more about yourself and what you're offering.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. So, as you said, my name is Ondra, and I'm a mindset coach, international speaker, best-selling author even these days as well, and I run a community. And the reason why I started this and why it's so important to me is because I overcame my own depression and social anxiety without doctors or any medication. And I have worked in about 8 different fields and 4 different countries before I became fully self-employed as a coach at the age of 22. And since then, I've been traveling the world with my online business. Been to about 20 countries, 22 countries at this point. And my passion and my expertise, you can say, is helping people figure out what their passion is, overcome social anxiety, overcome the fear of rejections and judgments and the pressure of society, and start building their own dream lives.
Wow, that's impressive. So, I would like to start addressing social anxiety. Social anxiety is more and more common these days. And it was not like that like 20 years ago or 40 years ago. So, what's your take on social anxiety? Why do we have so much social anxiety among the people these days? Even if we are connected through internet and social apps much more than we ever were in the past.
Yeah. Well, when you bring that up, that's a big part of the problem, right? The social media and the internet and the social apps. Like, if you think about it, back in, I would say, the old days, because it was basically before I was born, right? People would go and you would go knock on the door to ask, yeah, hey, is Paul here, or is Paul here to go hang out, right? That's what people did, right? And you would ask their parents. And nowadays, people go and you text each other and you're like, hey, you want to play a game? And so people, instead of going out to hang out outside and kick the ball around or something, go to the house, ask, hey, is he here? You text them and you go, hey, do you want to play a video game? And you're like spending time together in a way, but it's through technology, and then people don't know how to interact in real life because of that, right? And then you're face to face with somebody and you freeze up and you're so worried because we're so not used to it. Plus all of the social media of like comparing yourself to other people, and it seems like everybody else is perfect and they have all these amazing lives, right? Which is obviously just the highlight reel, but it still affects us. And so a big part of the problem is the technology, that we don't learn how to fully interact with each other.
But if we used to visit people and interact with them and play sports with them, why don't we just go back? What has changed?
Well, humans are very adaptable creatures, right? And we adapt to the environment. We adapt to whatever's easiest. And once you're adapted to something, everything else becomes kind of uncomfortable. And we don't like to do uncomfortable things, right? So if we can, right? And people still do it, but it has to be much more intentional. Back then, like, you didn't really have any other options, right? So it was just what you did. Now you have this very comfortable option, just like, yeah, just, send a text with my thumbs. And that's very easy. But going out, it's more difficult, right? So people generally just choose the easier option in the moment, and we don't really foresee that in the future the easier option will actually make us miserable.
Okay, so basically we are anxious because we're lazy. Is that correct? Or is there or is that oversimplification?
It's very much an oversimplification, but it's a part of it. It is a part of it. If you were to dig deeper into social anxiety itself, there's a lot of factors that cause us to be actually anxious. And I believe that on a certain level, we all have social anxiety, and we've always had social anxiety as humans. And it was actually an evolutionary adaptation and an evolutionary benefit. Like, if you think about people living in small tribes, let's say cavemen, right? Living in caves, and you have a small tribe of 30 people, if that tribe rejects you and they judge you for doing something wrong, and you get rejected from the tribe, like, you're dead. That's the end of your life, right? Because you cannot survive without other people. You're going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, or you're not going to be able to hunt for your food, right? The jungle is going to take care of you, basically, right? So the humans who survived, which is who we are now, we've adapted to have a severe fear of rejection and judgments, so that we don't do something dumb, so that the tribe rejects us, and then we die, right? So we evolved to live in tribes to help each other this way. And the problem with this becomes that the world that we have now is exactly the opposite. Like, back then, if you got rejected, you're dead. Now, if you get rejected, and if you have a big fear of rejection, you're going to struggle, you're going to suffer. So in our modern world, it's more so that we have to get rejected over and over and over until you find your tribe, until you find the right opportunity, until you find that person who sees your vision or who sees who you really are. But it wasn't like that before, because there weren't any other options. Now there's so many different options with so many different people and so many different tribes and communities and all this. So if you really, and you see this all the time with businesses, right? Like, there's so many stories, and we are inspired by these stories. Like, when somebody says, I went to 46 different investors and everybody laughed at my face, and then the 47th investor was, yes, this is amazing, and now we have Harry Potter, right? That's one of those stories. She got rejected hundreds of times, I think, before somebody finally saw the value and gave her the opportunity, and now, everybody knows Harry Potter. And there's so many other stories like that. So in our modern world, we have to retrain ourselves to go into rejection, to embrace it in a way, and not let it affect us as much, and just go through them. And going back to being lazy, or like, are we anxious because we are lazy? Well, in part, yes, because this is hard. But if you do the hard work, you will not be as anxious, right? So in a way, you have to stop being lazy this way, and you have to stop, not stop being scared, because you will be scared. You have to start taking the action even when you are scared, and eventually it will dissipate, and the fear of rejection and judgment will be, instead of being like this limiting your life, will be like this. And it's just something like, yeah, I know what this is. Whew, I don't care anymore.
Okay, so I have another question that it really intrigues me. You also mentioned depression. Is
Yes,
anxiety part of depression?
it can be, right? So usually anxiety and depression go together. I saw an amazing comedy bit from like a stand-up comedian talking about anxiety and depression, and how it's so weird that these two go together, because they're very different energies, right? Like, depression is more like nothing has any point, everything is meaningless. Oh my god, I hate everything. And it's very low energy, right? And anxiety is like, oh my god, what if that happens? Oh my god, what if that happens? Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Why did I say that? Why did this happen, right? And it's a very high energy, but still very unpleasant. And they usually, so people, when they suffer with anxiety and depression, they oscillate between the two, right? One moment I'm very low, and I'm feeling like everything's meaningless, and what's the point? And another moment, I'm feeling really high, in a way, like lots of energy, your heart beating really fast, but super anxious, overthinking everything, and being stuck in there. So they usually both go together as like symptoms of some underlying mental health issues, or some underlying trauma, or some underlying, like, usually they are signals that, like, hey, something in your life isn't working, you're supposed to do something about this, or you're supposed to change something. And so they are signals of, hey, you're supposed to fix something in your life. And they usually go together, but it's not like one causes another.
Okay. I would like to ask you about your opinion on the trust level. I recognize
Mm.
within my community that the trust is really hard to gain and easy to lose these days. And people have huge problems with whom to trust and what to trust them with. And I do believe that there is, let's say, the lack of forgiveness and too much grudges going around, and people just they just completely lost trust levels, and people don't trust anything anymore. They don't trust products, they don't trust food, they don't trust medical care, they don't trust government, they don't trust police. What is the issue with this trust, and why does that occur?
I think a lot of people are very scared about getting scammed and being lied to and being betrayed and being used, which a lot of the times is the case, right? And again, because of social media, we see always been around, but it wasn't always so accessible. But nowadays we see it everywhere all the time. So it starts to feel like that's how world is, right? And we start to be very skeptical by nature, and we start looking at everything of like, I can't trust anything. I can't trust this, I can't trust that. And people become very cynical, I think, because of that, because we see it all the time.
So we talked about three problems now: social anxiety, depression, and trust levels. What are the solutions to this problem? Because you're an expert, and how do you start with your clients? So where is the first thing that they should be paying attention to in order to change it?
Yeah. The very first thing is getting really clear and honest about where you are in life and what's happening, and then figuring out where you want to go, what you want to create. The big problem with people is we all know, or people mostly know, and this is a great experiment that you can do. You can go around, ask people, hey, what do you not want in life? What do you not want? And people will be like, let me tell you, and they will go through the list. I don't want to have a shitty job. I don't want to have a husband. I don't want to have a partner that yells at me. I don't want this. I don't want that, right? And they will go through the list. And then you ask them, okay, I understand what you don't want now. What do you really want in life, right? What do you want? And people will usually be like, that's a good question. I haven't really thought about that much. Let me think about that, right? So we always think about what we don't want, but we don't really know what we want. And in life, you end up getting what you focus on the most. So if you continuously focus on what we don't want, we end up getting just that. A great example of this is if let's say there's a highway, right? And there's a lot of empty space and then one tree, and then a lot of empty space and then one tree. When somebody crashes, how come most of the time they hit the tree instead of the clearing between the trees, right? Because they lose control of the car and all of a sudden they see the tree and they're like, oh my God, please don't hit the tree, please don't hit the tree. And boom, they focus on the tree, so they hit the tree, right? But because we're naturally kind of just trained to focus on what we don't want. But if you focus in that moment, if you're trained to like focus on the clearing, you're gonna steer the car better, and you miss the tree. Not focus on I don't want to hit the tree, but I want to hit the clearing, right? So that's a big shift. But you gotta know what you want. So the first step is to be really clear and honest with yourself about what's happening and then what you want. I'll give you a clear example in my life, right? I got bullied as a teenager. And that's where a lot of my depression and anxiety came from. And I had to get honest with myself about, okay, this is the situation. I'm getting bullied, and maybe nobody else is helping me. Okay, so I have to accept this, and then what can I do about this, right? And as an example, the bullies would always tell me that you're weak and you're shy and you're a gay and this and that, right? They would call me these names. And then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? They are kind of right. Like, I am really shy. I am really weak. But guess what? I can change something about that. I can become confident. I can become stronger, right? So then I started creating the vision of like, what do I want my life to be like? Okay, I want to be strong. I want to be confident. I want to have really good friends. I want to be able to communicate effectively. I want to be able to speak up on stage. right? And so instead of me thinking I don't want to get bullied anymore, I started thinking I want to become strong. I want to be confident. I want to be a good communicator. And so that's what I started working on. What you can change, what you cannot change, what you can change, and then figure out where you want to go and what you can do about it.
So it all comes down to focus on the good and not the bad that is happening.
You can simplify it that way, yeah.
You also mentioned that you help people find their life mission. One of the biggest challenges of midlifers when experiencing midlife crisis is they don't know why they're here. They have their own house, they have good job, the kids are almost grown, and they just don't know why they're here. How would you suggest people to find their mission?
Yeah. So I think a part of the purpose here, a part of the problem here is that we have this perspective, and you use the words as well, find their mission or find people's purpose, right? Like we hear it all the time, you have to find your purpose, or people trying to go and travel and hoping that they're going to find their purpose somewhere in Thailand, right? And usually that's not how it works. So I started creating a different metaphor or a different perspective of instead of finding your purpose, you don't really find your purpose, but I believe that you create your purpose. Like for example, I found, right? I'll help you go through a perspective shift. I found that my purpose or a part of my purpose is helping people with social anxiety, helping people with mental health, right? But I didn't find that. I decided it, right? And I created it based from my past, from me really struggling really hard, and then overcoming it, finding solutions, and then that created my purpose of okay, going to help others, and that became a big part of my purpose of why I'm here, why I'm on this podcast, why I chose to leave IT and get into coaching, right? And so it's more so creating your purpose rather than finding your purpose. And to give you a little bit of a hint, and I have like this 5-step process, let's say, that I can share with you. But to give you a little bit of a hint as well in the beginning, a lot of purpose usually for us human beings comes from contribution, right? And that might be contributing to the world, that might be contributing to your family, that might be contributing to specific group of people, or that might be contributing to animals or to the environment, right? People find their purpose or create their purposes and create their contributions in different ways. But that's really what we as human beings find fulfilling and meaningful is contributing to making the world a better place in sometimes a small or a big way.
Thank you very much for now. Before we finish, I have two more questions. And that is, do you have any trick or shortcut you can share with us how to go about anxiety, where to start, where to, what is the number one thing that they should do?
Yeah, absolutely amazing question. So the root cause a lot of the times of anxiety, if you really look at it, is that we are stuck in our head too much, right? Where does anxiety really come from? Usually thinking about something in the future that might or might not happen, and we overthink it so much that we get really stressed out. And then our body starts to react to the mind, right? And anxiety is really the body's reaction to the overthinking mind. And the way you deal with that is you step away from your mind and you get more into your body, or you get more in touch with your heart and with your body. And the way you do that, people will sometimes tell you, you have to feel your feelings. You have to feel your feelings. And I never really understood what that meant. I was like, okay, I'm feeling the feelings already. I'm feeling the anxiety. What do you mean? Right? So I never got it. And then I figured it out. And what people really mean is feel the sensations, right? So as an example, the difference between feelings or emotions and sensations is the emotion is the anxiety, but the sensation is maybe jittery hands and a heart beating really fast, right? And maybe some pressure in your chest. Those are the sensations, and every emotion comes with bodily sensations. And we are so trained to just think about the emotion and we label it, right? Oh, this is anxiety. I'm feeling anxiety, or I have anxiety,
Mhm.
right? And we don't really feel the sensation of it, of like, okay, and it's uncomfortable, right? Because your hands might be shaking and your heart is beating really fast. And when you take a few deep breaths and you focus on the sensation of the emotion, your body actually calms down. And that's what it means to feel your feelings, right? And the more you feel it, the more it kind of dissipates in the moment. The more you just try and avoid it and think about it, the more it stays and the louder it gets. Because again, your body is trying to tell you something and you're not listening. Right? Your body is trying to tell you, hey, there's something happening here. You better look at this and do something about it. And we don't know what that is because we try and avoid it and we go onto social media and we go smoke something or we go eat something, right? Or yeah, whatever it is that we distract ourselves with. So feel the sensations of the emotion and watch the emotion dissipate.
Great insight. So don't be afraid to feel down, and don't be afraid to feel where in your body this emotion is coming through. That I really like that. And before we leave, I would like to ask you, where can our listeners and viewers get in touch with you, and what is the best way to start? You said you have a book. You're also
Yeah.
doing coaching. Where should they start?
Yeah. You can go onto my Facebook or Instagram. My Facebook is just my name, as you can see here, Ondra Nemcik. Or if you go to Instagram, you can use my nickname also anywhere if you search Robo Humanist, ROBOHUMANIST, Robo Humanist. You can find me on all the platforms. I recommend you go onto Facebook or Instagram and then send me a message. If you send me a message with the keyword purpose, then I'll send you the guide to create your purpose, the 5 steps that I mentioned earlier, and figure out how you can contribute to life. If you can send me the keyword anxiety, I'll send you some guides and some steps for how you can deal with anxiety better and maybe start making friends, whatever you're actually after.
Thank you very much. I will include all the links in the description below. And thank you, Ondra. Thank you for being my guest tonight.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.